Hi guys! We're continuing today with more scatter plots. Today we're really going to focus on the relationship of the scatter plot as well as the relationship of the context of the scatter plot. Make sure that you're taking notes. In our activity during class, we learned about a positive correlation, a negative correlation, and no correlation. For a positive correlation, you can see that the points in the graph have a general trend of sloping upward. The line of best fit that we can draw always needs to have a positive slope if it is a positive correlation. So if I were to write an equation for that red line, I would expect my m to be a positive number. Another way that we can tell that something has a positive correlation is by looking at the context of the problem. If we can determine that my x value is increasing and my y value is also increasing, so they are both going up, that would be a positive correlation. It's the same concept as slope. If my y is a positive number and my x is a positive number, a double positive gives us a positive correlation. For a negative correlation, we want to notice that our dots have a general trend of going downward. So we want to start up high and then we're falling down. That also means that our line of best fit, the red line on the screen, has a negative slope. If I found the equation for that red line, I would expect my m to be a negative number. Now, negative does not mean that both values are decreasing. If my x is decreasing and my y is also decreasing, that gives me a double negative. That's actually a positive correlation. If you get that both things are moving in the same direction, either both falling or both rising, that's a positive correlation. To get a negative correlation, you need your numbers to be moving in opposite directions. So as one is increasing, the other is decreasing. Or as one is decreasing, the other is increasing. For our slope, that gives us one positive number and one negative number, and a positive and a negative gives us a final answer of a negative. So again, it's not that they're both decreasing, it's that they're moving in opposite directions. As one gets bigger, the other gets smaller. Finally, for no correlation, it's not that there's a line with no slope, it's that there is no line whatsoever. We can't even draw the red trend line. Okay, so no correlation is when there's no obvious pattern of increase or decrease for the given data. There's no trend line. It's not a no slope line. That would be a vertical line. We can't draw a vertical line through those dots. So it's just, there's not even a line at all. No correlation. We're going to continue to focus on the context of the problems, and we're going to try to figure out if two things have a positive correlation, a negative correlation, or no correlation. So here I have 11 sentences. What you're going to do is you're going to write the sentences into your notes, and then I would like you to figure out if they have positive, negative, or no correlation. And then you can come back to the video and check and see how you did. We'll do the first one together. So for the first one, it says education and income. So we want to figure out, are those related at all? And if they're related, are they positive or negative? Okay. Now, we're not thinking about outliers. Outliers is like the one person or the two people where it's different than like pretty much everybody else in the world. So we want to think in generics. So in general, the more education you have, the more money you'll make at your job. The higher your education, the more money that you'll make. Or the other way, the lower your education, the less money you're probably going to make. Since both of my hands are moving in the same direction, that means that this has a positive correlation. And you can do that at home too, right? So think about, if this one goes up, what happens to the other one? Does it go up also? Does it go down? Does it do nothing? And so that's how you can kind of figure out which ones these are. So I want you right now, pause the video, write down all 11 sentences, and write down positive, negative, or no next to them. When you're all done with the other 10 sentences and you've got all of your answers, then you can unpause the video to check and see how you did. All right, I hope you've already written down all 11 problems with your answers so you can check and see if you got it right or wrong. Let's start with number 2. Number 2 says the number of pets a person has and the number of books a person has read. So we want to think like, if I have more pets, what does that mean about how many books I've read? And it means nothing. That one has no correlation. Okay, the next one, the number of days absent from school and your math average. That basically means your math grade. So we want to think about that. The more I'm absent from school, the lower my grade will go because I'm not learning, I'm not turning in my homework, maybe I miss a test. So the more I'm absent from school, the lower my grade goes. And so those are going in opposite directions. That makes that have a negative correlation. Next one, test score and shoe size. The higher your test, the bigger your shoes? No, those have no correlation. Sentence number 5. The distance you've traveled and the amount of gas that is in your car. Okay, so again, think about this. The further that I travel, my gas gauge in my car, the more I travel, my gas gauge is going to go down because I'm using gas. So until I hit the gas station, right, it's going to keep going lower and lower and lower and lower. So the more I travel, the less gas I have because I'm using it. And so that one is negative because they're moving in opposite directions. Sentence 6, again, we're thinking in generics. So in general, the more I study, the higher my grade will go. In general, we're not thinking of the outliers. The more we study, the higher our grade is. Positive, positive, both moving up. Hours spent in the mall and the amount of money that you've spent. So the longer you stay in the mall, probably the more money you're going to spend. The longer I'm in the mall, the more money I'm going to spend. That's a positive correlation. Now, if I change the wording a little bit, it could be negative. So if I change it to say hours in the mall and how much money is in my pocket, that would be negative. The longer I stay in the mall, the less money I have in my pocket because I'm spending it and it's going away. So pay very close attention to the wording. For number 8, I believe we were thinking just a skateboard on nice flat surface, not like going down a hill or anything like that. So the weight on a skateboard and the speed of the skateboard, usually the more it weighs, the slower it goes. So that would be a negative correlation. Number 9 got a little bit tricky. So depending on what age range you're thinking of, you can think of it as a positive correlation. The older you get, the taller you get. At a certain point in time, though, you stop growing. So if you are thinking like, well, I'm never going to grow again, then you could say it has no correlation because you're going to keep getting older, but you're going to stay the same height. So that would be a no correlation. So if you wrote no, that would also be acceptable. And then sometimes when you get really old, the older you get, the shorter you get. Your spine and like, yeah. So if you're negative, I think you could also justify a negative correlation as well. So depending on what age range you're thinking of, I actually would have accepted any of the 3 on that one. Next one. The taller you are, the slower you drive. No, your height and your driving has nothing to do with each other. So that's no correlation. And then the last one, the temperature and the amount of people wearing jackets. So this one again is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to use my hands. So the higher the temperature is, the hotter it gets, the less amount of people will be wearing jackets. Or we can think of it the other way. The colder it gets, the more people will put on their jackets. And so we're going in that opposite direction, which makes it a negative correlation. Negative. Okay. Now, Sometimes we will think that things have no correlation, but when we actually graph them out, sometimes they do. That doesn't mean that they're correlated. Um, Cause and effect, it's just because it looks like there's a correlation doesn't mean that there actually is one. So I just wanted to end on a little fun note today and show you some things that look like they're correlated, but in reality they are not. So here I have the red line is cheese consumption. That's how much cheese is eaten, and the black line is the number of people who died becoming tangled in their bed sheets. So as you can very clearly see, the more cheese we eat, the more people get tangled in their bed sheets. I don't think that that's true, but there's the data for it. Here's another cheese one. The We have mozzarella cheese. The more mozzarella cheese that we eat, the more people get an engineering doctorate. So if we want to get more engineers out in the world, we should eat lots of mozzarella cheese. And just one last one. The divorce rate in Maine and the amount of margarine that we eat. So, the less margarine we eat, the less people will get divorced in the state of Maine. So, let's save some marriages and not eat that margarine. So again, sometimes the data can be very confusing, conflicting, and we can't always trust the data. So it looks like there's a correlation. There is not. Don't believe everything that you see, and that's it for today.